Hello and welcome to a quieter week on the track, they may call it here at Sonoma Raceway, but don't count it out. We're here in the winter, we have a beautiful new scan, and we even have an American here who's about to present an incredible impassioned defense of this place and why he finds it fun. Am I right, Ron Mons?
I would say so, yeah. I do enjoy this track. I think it's a crime that it isn't a part of iRacing-based content, but, you know, the NASCAR fans will always buy it, so I guess it does kind of make sense there. But no, I adore this track. I think it puts on some very good racing, and this new scan of it looks absolutely majestic, to invoke some terminology that's completely out of whack from what it actually is. Now, I'm really looking forward to this race. I think this track can put on some good racing, even on this short NASCAR configuration that we are running here today.
On the short layout, I think we're going to have some more passing opportunities, but obviously the elephant in the room is that we have a particularly small field. Sports car and Formula drivers don't really buy this one because, quite frankly, it does not get scheduled enough. So, we do have a very, very wide SOF, some very high drivers at the top, but only a 2.5k owing to a single split, and some very new drivers also dropping in because they just saw a race go official. I think there were more drivers an hour ago, but hopefully we see some good racing. Still here up at the front, getting a total of 15 cars that made it into the lobby, including some of our favourite names sneaking in at the very last minute. It's a lot foggier than last time around, though. We are in the winter California, aren't we?
Yeah, it's California it's winter in California, not California in the winter. I guess it does make sense both ways, but no. California is one of only a few states in the U.S., couple that with probably Arizona, Nevada, and New Mexico, where in the winter, it doesn't get like snowy and freezing cold. It just gets a little bit foggy and very rainy. We don't have rain to worry about, though, here today. We've just got a lot of fog. It looks like a clear, crisp morning in Shanghai, China right now. Visibility is a little bit lower than usual. It's a bit hazy here in the morning. Looking at track temperatures as it stands at the present moment of only about 67 degrees, which I heard... Oh, that's going to be a fun base for a joke. But now, I've heard recently that is actually as low as iRacing temperatures can go. So we are at the floor. We are at the ground floor here.
In South California, or at the floor in South California, Ron? Would you believe it?
Now, temperatures in iRacing, I should make clear. I think it can get a little bit chillier up here because I think this is Central California.
Well, to me,
kind of by San Francisco.
Is South California to me, all right? If it's like, I just
Fair
call
enough.
it that in racing because I don't really know anything about U.S. geography. Quite a bit.
What about North Dakota? Is that south to Canada for you?
What even is? I've never heard of that place. You know, you've got to at least say things that are plausible. Most drivers got their first lap done. One new name that looks like he's quite fast, so we're going to have to try and work out. Rain Teasing. Let's go for it in the 6th car. No Frederick Surley on the drop this time, but as ever, have to mention his name and thank him for supporting the series as we get very close to the end. And there will be two very, very much more popular weeks further down the line, so we're not just going to experience the slow death of a car. Interestingly, Ian Anderson, our free car with 4K rating, hasn't set a lap yet. Ryan Teasing actually fastest out of this second batch. A few more are about to cross the line. James Becker could take it away from him. His dad does it first. I think Becker has set a very poor one on the second lap. Yes, he doesn't improve at all. Ian Anderson hasn't even set his first lap yet, so we get to watch him run down the S's. This layout obviously faster than the last one, so you take that bridge at the top of the hill rather than going back through S's. I think there are more overtaking zones here. It is quite wide, there are chances.
Yeah, and you got a long, quick section leading off into this hairpin. The second to last turn around this racetrack, even though it does feel like an alleyway nowadays when they got rid of the tire bundles of evil and replaced it with a solid concrete wall on the inside. Still a good spot to maybe get a move done. I gotta say, though, Rain Teasing is now down in 4th as Timothy Parker Russell just jumped up to 3rd. Let's see what sort of lap times we can see there from Ian Anderson as he comes across the line. Don't believe he set a time there.
I think that was the outlap. I think that was the outlap. And we're going to actually start running now. He's the last driver to do laps, so we get to see him go around the track. He is not usually the free car in a lobby like this, but he does have a good rating, sort of deserves it. A few drivers really dragging the SOF up. Did you know that your fun iRacing factor today is SOF is not actually a pure average? It's a really annoying and complicated algorithm that chops the extremes off both ends.
You know, based off my YouTube background, I get like Vietnam-style flashbacks whenever I think of algorithms. So now that has been added into the midst of that. So thank you for that, Howie. I do appreciate that. Ooh. But let's see if we can get a good lap time here from Ian Anderson as he heads his way off into the hairpin for the final time. Won't have to worry about this here, but keep an eye on that pit embutment there. The pit attenuator, I believe, is correct terminology here. But that tire bundle is probably going to be hungry for these driver safety ratings. $5 Monopoly currency a driver strikes that here in this race, either intentionally or they got sent in there by themselves.
Not a great lap. It's only going to be 9th fastest, and there's not going to be time. Oh, there could be time to set another, actually. Literally, Ian's going to be against the clock here just to try and get one across the line because he crossed with about 118, 119. What side of the timer is he on? This is almost like a race against the clock itself.
We gotta play some like special music here as we see like I don't know, maybe like the Mission Impossible music or something as he comes through the back half of the circuit at the end of the drag strip here, because there is a drag strip on the inside of this racetrack which used to be part of the start-finish straightaway, which is kind of odd, but regardless, let's see what he can do as he heads his way off through the S's. This is a tough section of racetrack here. You got a lot of elevation change thrown in the midst, and in these Formula Fords that can be a bit of a pain in the butt to try and handle. That can be a very tricky section of racetrack for these drivers coming up. Let's see how it's going to work out for Anderson as he heads his way into the braking zone for the hairpin for the final time. This could very well be the final time that we have set on the board here in this session as he briefly gets abducted by a UFO.
Ian, you can do this. He had to bog down a few times going down the hill. I thought that might have slowed him, but it is a time. It is an improvement. It's only 2P7. And that's going to mark out our starting grid, and we're going to get a merciful, quick ending to the qualifying because somebody decided to hit ready to race. So with that said, this should bring us to the starting grid. Not too many cars hitting up this time. Is that correct? No, it's not because it's got the wrong binding. How about that one? It's Alexander Istad with the fastest on pole. Graham Rory Hunt, 600ths behind. Timothy Parker Russell, another 600ths behind. Very close between that top three. Ryan Tastings up in 4th. Nato Brown's in 5th. James Becker's in 6th. Quite close up front. Ian Anderson sits in the middle in 7th with Dan Wilmot alongside Derek Holes in 9th. Brian Williams second down in 10th as well. There's a bit of a gap with Daz Webb and Thomas Onofrio. I'll go with Ron Solkers in 13th and Luke Vleders in 14th. But I think there should be one without a lap. Frederick Perrett without the lap. Up on here, 20 minutes. We're going to go around there quite a few times. 16 on the NASCAR short layout. Where are your favorite places to be bold around here, though?
I would say it's probably the hairpin at the end of the first lap. Your tires are building up the temperature, even on this ice-cold racetrack. You're going to start feeling the groove as you head your way off in there. So keep an eye on that to maybe be a good spot for these racers to get a move done. And also, that short chute would be a spot to try and push it. Let's see how it goes.
We line up on the grid, the car's revving, and we are green just like that. Alexander Istad over Graham Rory Hunt over Timothy Parker Russell. They're single file. Ryan Tysing, though, a bit slower. Nato Brown is able to sneak to the outside. Rory Hunt taking a different line up that hill. Curious to see when the first sort of dip will happen. James Becker almost like he sort of got caught out napping out there on the outside. Track's a bit wider than you think it is. Almost feels like it's gotten wider recently, which we know isn't really true. I see James Becker in the back there, sort of peek out of line. Here's where this track's a lot faster than the old variation. As we run over the bridge, you can go very, very wide. It's a very good exit from Istad, though, onto the turn. It's James Becker just looks to try and get the move done on Nato Brown. Bit of a poor exit, but Nato takes the curb, and that's going to be Becker's.
Yeah, now look at him feeling the pressure. Braun maybe gonna have to worry about a challenge from Ian Anderson right behind as they head their way off through the S's. Now I gotta wonder, will we see a move up at the front? Alexander Istad still holding on to that top spot, but Graham Rory Hunt is right in tow. About a 10th is a gap between these two as they head their way into the hairpin for the very first time. Will we see a lunge off in here? Maybe a little bit gutsy to try and do that right at the start. Looks like the top four have made it smoothly. Mostly everybody else has kept it clean. I think there may have been some trouble with Derek Cole and Brian Williams. They've swapped spots. Looks like there wasn't any trouble. They have just been able to keep it going in a straight line. Just a swap of spots for the final two inside of the top 10. But everybody completing lap one rather clean here, which is a bit surprising considering how ice cold the racetrack is.
It's a cold track. You're not going to get heat into the tyres easily. I found the spot in there in which these cameras do not quite like one of the cameramen. Hey, these are cameras for the old track, and I'm amazed that they all still mostly work, actually. Bit of a breakaway here from the top two. Tiffy Parker Russell, Ryan Tyson third behind James Becker, making up this top five. And there's a big gap. Brown's holding off Anderson and Wilmot. That's our second pack. And then it's Williams, Hull, Webb, Onofrio and Luke Vledder just trying his best to hang on at the back. James Becker's going for another. Climbing up this field quite well with an easy pass by Ryan Tyson. He seems to be able to do this as you go down the hill.
Yeah, Ryan Tyson in that number 6 car. I think I said this during qualifying, but I can't really remember because I have the memory of a goldfish. But he's a driver that I've seen in the Weekend Warriors before. Pretty quick racer, so I'll have to see what he can do behind the wheel of that number 6 car. That's a driver coming down pit lane. That's rather odd to see as Ian Anderson and Nato Braun squabble up. And that's going to be a move from Anderson to hold on to P6 as that right there, I believe, was Dan Wilmot coming down pit lane. You don't have to do that here in this series. I wonder if he maybe underfueled his car.
Yeah, there's nothing that indicated either damage or a black flag, so maybe he did just take a qualifying setup and then he realised he's got to put fuel in the car. James Becker's been doing some passing up the field so far. This top three pretty much running astern, although one that might threaten a move near the end of this. I mean, we have plenty more rounds. I want to see how quickly James Becker can really catch up to the drivers ahead. He seems to get a lot of speed in this back part of the track, filled with new sponsors, including, we're not going to get used to calling that the O'Reilly Series in NASCAR. We are not. Graham Robbie Hunt tries to duck his nose out for Alexander Istad. Just slightly different lines going down this hill. I'm seeing the opportunities present themselves. We've not seen the gutsiness and the boldness yet, but I think this whole top four is going to be one to follow this entire race. Two different lines here into the final turn. Istad's going to hold that inside, and that might help him out. Parker Russell doesn't quite have space to squeeze in alongside.
Now, one thing I should note is that throughout this season of action here in these FF1600 top split broadcasted races, we've seen many pole sitters be able to convert their poles into wins. A little bit more surprising considering that last season we didn't really have too much of that. Here, however, we've seen a lot of it. I wonder if today will be the same case as we nearly saw a collision between Istad and Graham Rory Hunt, and now Hunt's losing out some time. Look at Timothy Parker Russell in that number 5 car to maybe hop in front, but they got to worry about the 2 cars of James Becker and Ryan Tyson right in tow. That's going to be a squabble to keep our eyes on all throughout this race. This top 5 breaking away, trying to drive off into the sunset as Ryan Tyson trying to drive away from the barrier.
Ryan Tyson almost joined the pack, and then he just sort of chose not to get a bad exit. When I say choose not to join the pack, he just sort of slipped right back off by over half a second just by having a bad exit going up the hill. So he's now going to have to sort of recollect and rejoin that. Interesting that drivers are sort of holding their positions rather than trading them. There's not really many draft opportunities. Here comes Rory Hunt, though. Big send, and he sent it way too hard on the outside. He's going to easily lose out to Parker Russell for that. And even James Becker might get in this.
And he went so deep down into that hairpin, he nearly ended up in San Diego. I make that joke knowing fully well that I don't think there's too many people who would fully get that geographical reference here, as look at James Becker trying to sweep around the outside of Graham Rory Hunt. He holds on to that spot, holding on to the advantage through the inside line, but now Becker got to try and swap sides once again. This is off through turn number 3 and 4. They make contact nearly. That's going to be Becker jumping his way up into third. He had to fight for that, though.
Becker is fighting with every little little bit he has in order to work his way up the field. And with this pace, I would not count a I can't even speak. I would not even count a battle for the race win. Off the books here. He just seems to just be passing and gapping everybody. Ryan Tyson, again, almost gets up to the back. This time he gets wide, catches the grass. That sort of scuppers that chance, but he's trying time after time after time.
As we see these racers trying to change their mindset as we've hit the middle, what I like to call the middle 10, after the first 5 and the franticness that comes with it, and before the final 5 and the franticness that comes with that as well. I think these racers are just trying to settle into a groove around this racetrack. Can they do that, though? This track is rather brutal, and especially with those cold conditions and the fog descending here, maybe a little bit unnerving for these racers just to keep it going in a straight line. We'll have to see how these competitors try and cope with that challenge as we get farther along.
Who schedules a Formula Ford race at 9 in the morning on the local track time? That's the real question I would ask. James Becker started P6. He's halved the gap to Timothy Parker Russell in a lap. And you know what that means? I think he's going to find the next chance to absolutely go for it. No, it's a NASCAR track limits here, by the way. You can pretty much go over anything that's painted. And, well, you can go on the grass, but I presume that's just not a very good way to move on. I mean, this track did get it's a very, very, very nice visual refresh this track gets. I heard that you've commentated on the Rallycross track, which is still on the old one. You sort of have to go back in time and witness the ancient desert. But this was scanned more in sort of the winter. I think the grass grows and literally the track has a bunch of sheep to come eat it to make sure that the place doesn't burn down. That's why it's like that. James Becker catching up even closer. Another 10th, and now he's within passing range.
Yes, as we continue to see this battle go on for some of the spots in the podium and also the win, as Alexander Istad still holding on to the race lead, and Becker sets a fast lap of the race last time by as well at a 1:17.570. I kind of wish they scanned this track in the spring because that's the rainy season in California, and that was also the time where the grass is green instead of being beige and brown and dead. That's the problem what you've got with this racetrack. The grass is just dead all around here. I don't believe, I've never heard the story that they have sheep here. I do believe there are some sheep farms around the racetrack, so that would make sense. And don't ask me why I know that. I just do for some reason. But I believe it's just because the grass flat out dies and it just turns into hay. So they're like, okay, sheep, here we go. You've got a buffet here right now, so the grass just doesn't burn whenever any hot race car exhaust ends up on it. As here we go, that's James Becker trying to look for a move on Timothy Parker Russell into third to last turn. Doesn't make it work, but he certainly thought about it.
He's climbing, he's moving, and always gets very close to contact going into the hairpin, but keeps it sane and together. Istad's been running very, very good laps, but I don't quite know how he's going to be able to deal with the pressure very, very soon, because James Becker is going to put it on the whole way, and he seems to find these chances to pass. Not quite up. Turn 1 is actually Graham Rory Hunt. That does the fastest lap, as Becker is a little bit impeded by Parker Russell ahead. Every driver in this top 4 is pretty fast, and they've proven they can make the moves work, but it's pretty opportunistic, and it's pretty timing-based for them. Here's another attempt. Oh, Parker Russell's keeping the door a whole lot more closed, but this time running wide on that turn. That's usual, but that's going to give Becker the chance to take you on the inside, and I wonder if Rory Hunt's going to be able to pull off the same. Not quite. One more position to go, a second to go, but 10 minutes to do it.
Now, I gotta wonder, as they head their way off through the NASCAR short chute, you got that painted bit of runoff area on the outside. I wonder how little the grip is as you head your way off through there. It's cold, the track is probably very greasy, and that part of the track is most certainly dirty. So I can imagine that when you hit that, it's basically like driving on a giant slip and slide. So I'm surprised we haven't seen a driver completely loop it heading out of there. And just to touch on you mentioning that I was covering a race with a Rallycross configuration here, that's actually turn 1 on the Rallycross cross track, and the drivers have so much grip through there, they actually pick up the inside tires up off the ground. That was a rather disturbing fact for me to see, as drivers were nearly flipping off through there. But I think you've got the inverse being true here. You've got the opposite problem, where instead of having too much grip, you just have none in these Formula Fords. I mean, grip isn't really something that a Formula Ford car likes, but you throw in slightly damp paint in the midst of that as well, slightly damp, dirty paint, and you're not going to have a very fun time in the cockpit.
Gap 1 second, now 6/10. This is kind of counts as cleanish air, given that not much comes off the back of these cars to each other. So once you're within 2/10, that's sort of the zone in which you really start getting slowed down by the car ahead. Rory Hunt, he is fast, but he's not had that sort of aggression factor that's caused him to actually directly make these moves on other cars, whereas Becker's just taken every single open door, and I wonder if his dad's been watching behind in order to really, really work out how to defend this, or whether he's been focusing on his own lap. So it's quite hard to string a lap together here, and I think Ryan Teesing is back in this to get a few more places.
Yeah, I think despite sliding around like a declawed cat trying to climb up an igloo a little bit earlier on, he has been able to get back into the groove, and that number 6 car may be on the charge up. Let's see, though, in the final 8 minutes of this race, getting into crunch time for sure. You gotta see some drivers push their cars a little bit more. You gotta see some drivers maybe push it over the edge. I saw Graham Rory Hunt really get friendly with the inside curve off through turn number 2. Shocked that he didn't lose that car entirely, because these cars do not like the curbs at all. That is not something that open wheel car enjoys, but I'm surprised that Graham Rory Hunt has been able to keep that car going in a straight line, keep it in fourth, and is still within striking distance of the drivers farther up the road. But is that some lap traffic that I see?
I do think Luke Vledder has had quite a hard run of it today, and his laps have been more than 5 seconds off the pace, so this was somewhat due. Hopefully this is an easy negotiation. I think he is going to hold that wide line. Maybe the hairpin's going to prove a little more difficult, but no, everybody makes it through and gets that one done, and we're going to have a big attack now into the turn just because of that. The 5 on the outside, Parker Russell, doesn't, because he's given an outside line, he's not able to make it happen, but you almost thought there that something was going to result.
Yeah, I think all that's resulted in is Alexander Istad holding on now to a nearly 1.2 second gap. It's fluctuating around that barrier. You think this is going to be the day that Alexander Istad finally breaks through, doesn't get struck with a falling anvil, and wins one of these races? I'm certainly hoping so, because I feel like I've thrown enough jinxes his way.
Istad has also won a championship. I don't know if you were here for it, but 2024 season 4. So it would be ironic that he starts performing again in a season 4 next time around. So he has had his consistent times in the past. It's just been a while since they've really come to him, and now he's running away, and I'm wondering if James Becker can do it anymore. These laps have been falling off and off and off. 1.3 the gap now, and now it's sort of about this 3-car train where Rory Hunt has constantly peaked for ways through and just has not been able to make one stick. Hoping to hit lap 12 when we hit the line. I say hoping as if it just might not happen. We just might not get a lap 12. But if we hit lap 12, 30, 40, 50, 16, there'll be another 4 across the line. So not too many more chances.
Yeah, not a lot of time left for these racers, so they got to be smart about this. Not only do you have to kind of bring out the flamethrower, for lack of a better term, smartly. You don't want to burn the whole place down. Don't burn the kitchen. Just try and cook as best as you can. These competitors, they're running out of the opportunity, so they got to make sure that the moves they go for are smart and effective. They can't just go for a dive at every single opportunity. So as we look to see this battle go on for third between Timothy Parker Russell and Graham Rory Hunt, I think this battle is mainly just for the final 2 podium spots, as Alexander Istad has really started to drive off into the sunset. Does he hold on to the fifth lap of the race? I don't believe he does at the current moment. He's just been able to set in the consistent lap times. In fact, I'll break away from my second monitor and kind of see what the deal is for Alexander Istad and some of the lap times that he has set, because I'm sure they have been incredibly consistent throughout. And yeah, looking through a 118.2, a 118.3, a 118.1, a 118.0, a 117.8, a 117.8, a 117.7, a 117.9, a 117.6, and a 117.4 last time around.
Alexander's last lap, I have to cut you because it's just his last lap, he's about to cross the line, was a 1,000th off being the fastest. So that's how close he got to it. He was denied it. I had to cut you off because he's about to change that and no longer be his last lap. But yes, he is that fast, but what does the tiniest bit of slip do? One more lapped car by on the track on the outside. How feisty are these cars going to get? I think James Becker may have written off the win, but we still have two temps, and Ryan Teesing will take advantage of something that happens further ahead.
As you can see, running wide there as they head their way off through the section. That was Timothy Parker Russell diving off into the dirt. He's now going to feel a whole lot of pressure from Graham Rory Hunt as Hunt got to look for the move around the outside. Parker Russell blocks off the inside line. They single foul it out once again by the time they get to the apex. But this is a titanic battle between these racers. I'm just saying something because they haven't really swapped spots too much here. Really, the only swap-aroos that we have seen has just been Graham Rory Hunt dropping down after some troubles a little bit earlier on in this race. But he's in a very good spot to jump into third. Timothy Parker Russell, I feel, is really starting to feel the pressure as we get to the end of this race.
Line astute, 1, 2, 3, 4. Istad's gap's pretty consistent, always been within that 1 second, 3 tenths, hasn't really grown it all that much out. Rory Hunt, I'm seeing himself having to stall that engine going down the hill to make sure he doesn't lose the rear. It's going to be that battle for the podium for 4, 5, 6, make it 3 laps, make it, I counted 1, 2 for you earlier. Should be 3 to go. We'll get somewhat, it'll be 3 or 2. It's going to be an unreliable count, so we'll have to just see what it looks like when we next cross the line. And this line, I think one of them is going to look, there's a look of Rory Hunt on the curbs, as you mentioned, and the reaction that causes on the grass, the wobble on the way out, doesn't cut the one on the inside. Instead chooses to go very, very wide, but that's cost him a whole lot of time, and I think he realizes that.
Yeah, the car's wobbling around like soft set jello every single time they get a little bit squirrely, either over the curb or just losing the grip. Gotta wonder what these racers are feeling in the cockpit with the cold track temperatures and this challenging racetrack that not a lot of people have some experience on. As we get into some more popular weeks, this is probably going to be the last major test of these racers' ability to learn tracks and think on the fly. As here we go, James Becker covering off the inside down to the hairpin. Timothy Parker Russell looking to jump into that spot. Graham Rory Hunt smelling blow in the water.
One little slip up ahead and it all kicks off again here at Sonoma. I thought the passes would get completed. We've actually ended up exactly where we've started. It will be 2 to go across the line, so we will get both of those predicted laps. I don't think Ryan Teesing's really a part of this at this stage, but I think the pace is starting to run thin. Parker Russell looks to the right-hand side, gets covered off in time by James. That could prevent that from becoming a problem. But this is getting tight, and it could end in tears. These are some very respectful races. They've raced pretty respectfully all season, so I'm not expecting drama to be inevitable, but these cars have gotten close, and they've misjudged each other once or twice.
Yeah, you can tell that the tension is rising. As much as Alexander Istad is probably feeling like he's on a nice Monday afternoon/evening cruise, he's probably the only driver inside of the top 10 that isn't feeling somewhat nervous, even for the drivers a little bit farther behind, like the case of Ian Anderson and Nato Braun, who have their own battles. Some drivers battling a little bit farther behind. These racers are turning up the wick as here comes Graham Rory Hunt on the outside. Timothy Parker Russell keep an eye on Teesing. He's got to maybe try and get the move done as Hunt's momentum stalls. Now they're on the white flag, and only a few more opportunities left for these racers to get moves done.
Parker Russell caught the curb and the grass. That killed his momentum enough that even though the pass wasn't doable in the hairpin, that momentum coming out of it has secured Rory Hunt that P3 he's finally looking for. But now James Becker might be a little bit too far away to really make a chase. Cars all the way down to 5, pretty close together. Alexander Istad's had sort of the race of his life. He's been able to run away with this, even though I thought that win was very much under threat. That's when he started getting legendary laps. Only a few more turns to go, and I don't think anyone got a good enough run leaving the top of the hill to make this a problem. So unless something unusual happens, we clip a curb too much, we touch a bit too much grass, this might be how we end our final three. But Parker Russell has just a few more turns to try and make something happen of this. I don't see huge momentum. Will he shoot to the outside? I assume Rory Hunt will defend the inside. One more lap car. Actually, that inside is opened up. Whoa. A big brake lock, but he actually makes it through on time. It's a turn, pass through the last turn. The finish line's actually around the bend, but what a brilliant pass to secure P3 back.
Oh my goodness, that was a dive as they headed their way down into turn at number 1. That's the only way that you could describe it. I was fully expecting those drivers to come to blows, if I'm being completely honest. They kept it clean though. Well done to Timothy Parker Russell, dancing that car into the braking zone. If you want to go for a kamikaze dive, that's the way to go about it. It wasn't even a kamikaze dive, it was the lunge back of a century. And it worked out well. He got the move done clean. It didn't shuffle anybody out. Nobody wants to kill each other. That was slick.
I mean, the mistake here was Rory Hunt not holding enough of that inside line. And I assume he sort of knew it the moment the car washed out of here. It's as soon as he realized there was a gap. I think the lap car sort of like would make you scared to assertively go for it. And that's when the opportunity is available. Leaving to the outside. That doesn't happen at all. That is an epic way to finish. Let's get your finishing results. Don't say you can't pass at Sonoma. I had a great time. Alexander Ristad, though, leads the pack. James Becker gets a nice second. Climbed up from 6th to do it. Parker Russell finished 3rd on that last lap dive over Rory Hunt. Ryan T. Singh is the last car in that pack. Ian Anderson and beats out Nato Brown, Brian Williams, Derek Hollins, Daz Webb. 3 other drivers include Thomas Onofrio, Dan Wilmot, Luke Vleder, Ron Sloker, and Frederick Perret. Lining out the rest of our grid. We actually, it almost looked like there were only going to be 6 cars just before the end of that, and it suddenly became enough more to make it worth it. 2 more races to go, and they will be more popular because we are at 2 very popular tracks. 3-track Leydenon's on the way. There's a chance of rain, and by chance, I mean the percentage is low, but iRacing forecasts are weird, and we'll find out in a few hours quite how that's generated and what that's going to do for the field. That could be a pretty fun ice rink. I'm actually looking forward to watching that. And then we go to the Cup layout of Watkins Glen, which is sort of the elbows out way to end a championship that's been very, very elbows out. And even though Ron can't unmute a microphone in this very instance, we've all been there. Thank you very, very much for watching. As we wrap up, only 2 weeks to go in this season. We'll keep an eye on the iRacing Championship standings in the last couple of weeks.